Hello, friends and nonprofit leaders. Laura Zelke here. I'm your host of the Your Nonprofit Life podcast, and I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for sharing some of your precious time with me and being such a loyal podcast person. Thanks for downloading. You're going to be really glad that you're listening to this today. I'll tell you that right now. Terence Narcisse is my guest today. You might not know him, but by the end of this episode, I'm sure you'll be reaching out to connect with him. He's an incredible catalyst for change in his local community. In fact, we talk about it at the end of the interview, how as the founder and executive director of East Harris County Empowerment Council, Terence is absolutely committed to the success of students in this unincorporated area outside of Houston proper. He founded his organization 12 years ago, and he spends his days now writing grants and finding ways to serve not only the students, but all residents of East Harris County, Texas, in every way possible, especially during this pandemic. In this episode, we talked about life in an unincorporated town and what that means, because I wasn't actually that clear at the beginning. And then we also talk about who advocates for residents of an unincorporated town. And we talked about who advocates for them during a natural disaster like, Hurricane Harvey or a global pandemic like COVID-19. We talked about the tragic event that sparked his desire to leave a legacy and why it's so important to leave a legacy in your own community. You're going to be inspired and encouraged by today's conversation, and I'm telling you that he is a guy who's not only changing his own community, he's helping to heal the world. And I'm really pleased to bring this to you today, so please enjoy my conversation with the insightful and inspiring Terence Narcisse. Hey, have you ever wished you could hear some good news for a change? Well, I might have just what you've been hoping for. Welcome to Your Nonprofit Life, where we remove our rose-colored glasses and explore what leaders are actually doing to move their nonprofits from messy to thriving without burning out in the process. I'm Laura Zelke, Director of Member Experience for the Nonprofit Leadership Lab. Join me each week to explore the ups, downs, and whoopsie daisies of your nonprofit life. Let's get started. Hey, Terence, it's so nice to have you here today on the Your Nonprofit Life podcast. I am coming to you live from muggy, hot, sticky North Carolina, and you're down in the Houston area, right?
Yes, I am. We are located in Houston where it is hot and humid. We are having some above average temperatures that are over the 100-degree mark. And so It's sunny and humid. However, it is not raining or flooded. So we would prefer that over anything else. So we're happy to have the sun shining.
I'm glad about that. I've got family down there, and I know that you guys have just had a really rough time in the past few years, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get too far, I did want to say, I gave a very, very brief snippet of an introduction at the beginning of the podcast, but I'd love for you to tell us about the organization. You're the founder and the executive director of East Harris County Empowerment Council. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it is and how it all got started.
Okay, so the organization started in the summer, July 22nd of 2008. So a little shy of 12 years ago, but I'm the founder and ED of the organization. I started the organization in response to the passing of a childhood friend of mine at the age of 18. One day he was on his way to school, but he stopped by to pick up a fellow classmate. And he actually had a head-on collision around 6:30 in the morning in fog. And he ultimately passed away from his injuries due to that incident. And at the services, the pastor was asking, what will your legacy be when you leave here? Many people stood up and said all kinds of wonderful and amazing things and the impact that he made on their lives. And he challenged us as young people to think bigger about life, because at that time, many of us had no idea that young people could pass away. We had school and books and tests and so much life to live when you're that young. It's been said that young people feel that we are invincible, and rightfully so. But yeah, I just took it to heart to start thinking through what would people say about me when it was my turn to pass away, and just kind of starting to think through how I could live a legacy, if you will. And so I began to take that to heart and just basic community improvement projects, cleaning up the cemetery where my friend was buried as a result of that, There was some turmoil with the groundskeeper of the cemetery. And so that kind of pushed us in a different direction. But the whole goal was to look at how I could leave a legacy, not only for myself, but for my family and for my community. So it's been this almost 12-year journey of that same question. What will your legacy be when you leave here? And so as I look back over the 12-year period, the organization has taken twists and turns, and we've had our highs and our lows. But nevertheless, we are still that same small organization of people with individuals with ideas of how we can take it upon ourselves to leave our community better than that in which we found it.
Well, we can just have an altar call now and end the podcast because, listener, what's your legacy going to be? I mean, I'm just so impressed by you, Terence. And I look at you, you're 30 years old, and we're going to talk about your organization and the difference that you've made, how much money you've been raising, especially recently during COVID. And you have the legacy, and yet you're not done. You're just getting started. Am I right?
Well, Laura, I pray to God that I am not done. That is the plan. I would plan to be around as long as I am needed here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's again, this, what would your legacy be? What do you have the power to do within yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you be an agent to spark change in yourself? Because many times in this sector, we're so focused on changing the world, but the world can't be changed unless we change ourselves. So that's one little nugget that I've picked up on this journey.
And so you channeled your grief into starting an organization. Did you start the organization right away, or did it come out later as you started getting more organized with it?
Actually, Laura, this is the longest group project I've ever had in my life, if that kind of makes any sense. So January 2008, January 31st is when my friend passed away. His funeral was on February 7th. The organization was birthed in July of 2008. So it wasn't that much longer. But at that time, we had T-shirts and we had a name. So it wasn't some grand schematic theme of the theory of change and a mission statement and what's your strategy.
Right.
Laura, we literally had lint in our pockets. We were a small bunch of people that began to take ownership of our community of it is up to us for this place to be better. And as a result of that, we came together. We started to actually enjoy working together. At that time, I was moving into my sophomore year of college. And again, with the whole idea of volunteerism, I was a member of the Honors College. And so I was able to go in ahead of the general population to select classes for the upcoming fall semester. And so I began to do a search in the catalog of volunteer. And so that's where I learned about the nonprofit management class. And I was thinking, ooh, I don't know what a nonprofit is. That means no money, but they volunteer. Usually volunteers don't get paid. So let me register for this. And so University of Houston has a program called the American Humanics / Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. And that class was my first crash course into the whole idea of the do-gooder sector, if you will. Again, I was in the honors college, and so they made us do extra work. And so I remember keeping a journal that I shared with my professor about all the things we were doing in the community. And so again, it was no rhyme, no reason. We had no blueprint. We had no metrics, no outcomes. It literally was just look around. Hey, the park needs cleaned. So get trash bags and clean the park. Hey, for Thanksgiving, people probably need turkeys. Let's get our family members to donate money and we're going to buy turkeys. Hey, back to school. Kids need school supplies. Kids go to school. Supplies. Can we do that? Again, it was just how can we do things in our community that's going to improve people's lives in a tangible way? Again, no structure, no strategy, no mission, just T-shirts of, we're a cool group. This is what this is. And so from that, once I began to kind of dip my toes into the nonprofit world through that class, the next step of the quilt, so to speak, or the movie was there was a speaker to talk to our class that night. It was an evening class about the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance Student Association. And I was like, well, what's this? And so it was a student association of fellow do-gooders at University of Houston that were on track to receive a certification through that actual program. And so the certification included an internship. It included financial management and accounting, a course on that, a course in intro to social work, a fundraising with some consultants. That was a part of the coursework. And I was thinking,
wow,
this is it. I remember coming home to my parents and, hey, I'm going to have a career in nonprofit. And they looked on in horror, like, what just happened? And so I remember my dad's statement was, well, look, son, your mother and I, we love you, but you can't be on our couch forever. And, nonprofit means no money. So you got to figure something out. It's nice that you have hobbies, but that's not how that's supposed to go. You got to get you a job. And so
Uh-huh.
I just said, okay, well, that's fine. We'll figure it out. But I think that this is a something. And as I begin to take on more responsibility in the community, because as you know, first you start off as a volunteer and then people
Yeah.
begin to follow. And then you're not
Yeah.
just a volunteer, you're a volunteer leader or a
Yeah.
volunteer manager.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the journey of how all this stuff came about. And as I began to actually learn concepts and themes and ideas and the correct terminology for all of this work, it became abundantly clear that we were on the right path all along, even long before we had the definition to what a nonprofit organization was. And
Right.
so it was just like Joan Gary says, out of the abundance of passion, that you want to see something happen so bad, and you begin to attract certain resources your way to ensure that it happens.
Yeah. Let's go back to that time then. You were in college, you started learning a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of what a nonprofit is, learning that it's a tax status. It just means you don't do profit sharing, right, with your constituents. And it is kind of like a business. And going from starting your learning, did you end up majoring in nonprofit management or something like that? Or what'd you do with your education?
I learned a lot in that program. It became my minor. So you could substitute a certification for the minor. And so that became, because I was thinking about being in education. And then when I found this, I'm like, I don't have to do
Right.
education. Let's do this. And so as I learned different things, it just kind of really kept preparing me to kind of want to learn more.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how this journey, it's just, it kind of like pulling, you're pulling something and it just kind of keeps
Right.
pulling you to learn more. The more you know, the more you have to unlearn about the world. And then the
Hmm.
more that you have to kind of relearn how to do things the right way. And
Yep.
so as I begin to continue to increase my knowledge and attend conferences and invest in myself, my nonprofit story is remarkable. And I don't say that to be arrogant. The more that I tell it, the more people always say, well, it's kind of like as if the nonprofit world chose me. I didn't choose it. And
Right.
so I remember even going to some donors and sponsors and partners, potential donors, and they asking about a 501c3. And I'm like, well, what is a 651c? What is that? Where do you get it? Is it the police department? Is it at the city hall? Is
Right.
it in DC? Is it at the state capitol of Texas? No one can really point us in the right direction. And so one night while doing an English all-nighter paper for an English class, I'll be totally transparent. It's 3 a.m. I am, doing research on grant writing
Yep.
because, everyone knows, those grants, Laura,
Yep.
those grants are out there and that's money that you can get to those grants. And so I remember typing in grant writing in Houston and I saw that there was a grant writing class being held within a couple of months of that search. And the class was $299. And I remember sitting in my apartment trying to figure out where would I be able to get $300. But I knew that I paid rent and my rent was $312.50 because I had a roommate and we split it in half. And I said, that's $312. Let me reach out to my landlord. And I reached out to her and asked her if I could skip out on the rent. And she said yes. And I took my rent money and paid for the grant writing class.
Wow. Thank you,
Yes.
landlord lady. That's awesome. Did you tell her that you wanted to do it so that you could do a grant writing class?
Yes, I did. And he said, yeah, okay. Of course, he was kind of like, sure, you're never late on your rent. Sure, Terrence, sure. And so I took that money, went to the grant writing class. Of course, I'm at this point, almost 19, 18, late 18,
Oh
early
my
19.
gosh.
And
Hmm.
I'm the youngest person in the class. People are there from all across the country, California, Colorado, Mississippi. And they're like, oh, sweetie, I think you're in the wrong room. And I'm looking at them like, I don't think you're in the right room. Why are you coming from so far away? I had no idea that lady was the best in the business. And we sat there for a whole day. It was a 1 or 2 day workshop. I can't really remember,
Uh-huh.
here in Houston. And of course, I skipped school to go to the grant writing class. And I learned all about grants. And it was the most amazing day ever of enlightenment because my mind was, it was smoking, kind of like when you put mouthwash in your mouth. It's like, it was
Uh-huh.
smoking like that. And so at the end of the class, she said, oh, well, you can't get grants without a 501c3. And I'm at this point leaping out of my chair. Please help me. Where do you get that? And she said that she had a 501c3 do-it-yourself kit for $499. And I'm like, okay, I just spent $300 to get in here. This is getting to be a little bit much with these asks of this large sums of money as a college student.
Right.
And she said, you know what? Send me an email. And Laura, I sent her an email after the class was over. And within 2 days, she forwarded me her 501c3 do-it-yourself kit free of charge.
Oh, wow.
I took the 501c3 do-it-yourself kit. We put it together in September of 2009 at this point. And the first or second weekend of December in 2009, I remember being on the phone with a friend and getting a letter in the mail from the Internal Revenue Service saying that you are now an official 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization.
Yay. And there was a lot of rejoicing, I bet.
There was a lot of rejoicing, but remember, we only got the 501c3 because people said we needed it so that we could get some of their donations. And so at that point, we still didn't know what we had. So it's kind of like you have a cat, but you're not realizing that this is a beast, that this is a something. And so we took it all around, and everywhere we go, we have our 501c3, we have our 501c3. But again, without training and the knowledge and the skill sets and the resources to be able to pull it all together, you just have a 501c3. You have a piece of paper.
It's a piece of paper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a piece of paper. You have a designation and nothing, no more than a receipt that says that you bought milk at Walmart.
Right.
And so with that, we began to take that back around. And that's when other opportunities began to open up of people that were willing to sit down and listen to us because we did have that designation. And so by that time, I had taken more courses at University of Houston to where I can begin to think through and learn more about how all this stuff fits together. So we began to write small grants and do small fundraisers and do community improvement projects. But then it became increasingly abundantly clear that our neighboring communities were also experiencing life and they wanted some of what we had, even though we didn't know what we had. Mm-hmm. And so they saw something special in us and we began to partner and twin with them. Hey, we have this resource. You go get it too. When you go talk to these people, this is what you got to say. And so I remember, working with the Houston Astros and getting Astros tickets and getting baseball tickets and getting basketball tickets and being able to distribute them throughout the community. At that time, we also began to lean heavily into social media. Facebook looked much different then. You can create a Facebook page and postings and opportunities and people are responding. And we even thought, how cool would it be? Because we know people's birthdays is the most important days of their lives in that year. And so we have this little cool saying that we made a graphic and it said, not a year older, but a year better. Happy birthday from your friends at the organization's name. And so no one really knew who we were. They just know they got cool messages from an organization on their birthday. And I remember talking with a friend and saying, hey, your birthday came up and yada, yada, yada. And, oh, well, what do you do? Oh, I volunteer with East Harris County. Oh, my God, that's you. They told me something for my birthday. I felt so special. And so that's when we knew that we were on to something special. At that time, it wasn't about being big or being bold.
Right.
It was about something special that people are recognizing is special in their lives without them even knowing that it's people that they know.
Right. Let me interrupt you for a second because I think it's important to clarify. Can you explain what the East Harris County community is? Because it's not what we think of when we think of a county.
So East Harris County is a geography that is located in Harris County, which surrounds the city of Houston, which at this time is the fourth largest city in America. And so there are parts of the county, so to speak, that are outside of a local city jurisdiction. So it's kind of like being the difference between having a two-parent home and a no-parent home. So, your parents are kind of responsible for making sure that your house is pretty good versus you being not there with parents. You may have an older sibling or someone that's responsible for taking care of the house. So that's kind of how the best way to explain is unincorporated means that we're not included in any city jurisdiction. So we don't have a mayor. It's just a collection of communities that are contiguous and neighbors to each other.
Yeah.
So like the school district is a huge role over here. So we think about those hyper-local organizations that are on the ground in community outside of unincorporated areas. It's going to be really community-based or community-centered organizations that are really driving change versus in a city where you would have council, city departments, city agencies, parks and recs, different things like that. It's not the same in terms of what happens when you're in an unincorporated area. Yeah, so it's not bad, it's just different. And it's up to the people that live there to be able to say, hey, we want this, and then build the partnerships at the household and neighborhood level to be able to affect change in a lasting, sustainable way.
Yeah. So an organization like yours coming in and really mobilizing the community. And then, like you said, even having this organic spread into neighboring communities that also are unincorporated has really transformed your area. Is that correct?
Yes, again, mobilizing, organizing, sharing resources with the neighboring communities that we're in this together. Because,
Mhm.
when Harvey hit, water was everywhere. It didn't respect, oh, this is this community, or this is this neighborhood, or, this is this school district, or this is the city of Houston. The water was everywhere. And we learned very quickly that as much as we like to hold on to our boundaries and our policies and our procedures and our perceived this, when times of trouble strike at a community, it's time for everyone to pull together to GSD, get stuff done.
That's it, and I know I have family down in the Houston area, and my nephew and his family lost their house. My ex-sister-in-law, they had flooding. My niece had to move out of her apartment. So it was crazy, very difficult. And you guys were not really in a city, so you had to mobilize your people locally. I know you said something to me when we were talking the other day that nobody came to save you and you had to
Yes,
save yourselves.
we had to learn to save ourselves because, again, Houston is crazy when you think about it. Houston is so large that most people don't get outside of 5 to 10 miles of their home.
Mhm.
Their church, their work, their gyms, their lives, everything is within a 5 to 10 mile radius. And so many people to this day in Houston don't realize that we're not a part of the city limits of Houston.
Mm.
I remember being told that you could drive around the city limits of Houston for 24 hours and still not see all of it. Houston is massive. And because it is so massive, we have become so isolated to our parts of town to where we drive through other parts without ever stopping to think who, what, when, where, why, what's going on here at the community level.
Mhm.
And so it became clear that we needed to advocate for ourselves, to be the people that we've been waiting on, to save ourselves, to develop the resources and the relationships that we needed to help move us through that period of time. And I'm so pleased to report that it worked.
Yeah.
We do have that more partnerships. We do have the support. People are starting to understand that this area has been marginalized and left behind for a number of years simply because the people who live here have just made do with what the resources they have, and their plight is okay. And now we're letting people know that this is unacceptable. We're humans too, and we shouldn't be second-class citizens in one of the largest metroplex areas of the country.
Right. Let's talk about what your organization does. East Harris County Empowerment Council, what kinds of things do you do now that it's 2020?
So now that it's 2020, we have been working on COVID-19 response for our area. As I
Mhm.
mentioned, we don't have a mayor. We do have county commissioners, but our county commissioners are roughly apportioned to be able to serve 1.2 million people. So East Harris County, from our standpoint, has roughly about 225,000 people. So we try to be a hyper-local organization. So right now, we've been currently engaged in providing financial assistance to households impacted by COVID-19 in the East Harris County community, serving the communities of Crosby, Channelview, Galena Park, Sheldon, Jacinto City, and North Shore. And so we've been raising money to provide food assistance and gift cards to where people can actually go to the grocery store and purchase food for their families without having to wait in a long line to receive food from agencies. Our biggest thing is we look at the work from a justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion lens of how can we provide dignity and hope to people during their times of despair. And so we felt that it was super important for us to be able to provide gift cards to people, for people to go to the grocery store and buy groceries for their homes. Also to providing flexible financial assistance, because we know right now people need money for rent and food and clothes and shoes and medicine, healthcare and different things like that. And so we have reorganized our entire operation to be in a virtual/remote format to be able to market or make the community aware of this opportunity, that funding is available, and for them to be able to submit the proper documentation. And that way we can award their household up to $1,500 as a one-time financial assistance package directly to the homeowner, not to the landlord, not to another vendor, not to the light company, to the individual, for them to be able to deploy those funds or disperse those funds in a manner that they see fit.
I just think that's incredible. And so how much money did that total?
For our COVID-19 response, and this is as of right now, we have raised roughly around $1.5 million. And on a normal year, our budget is around $400,000 to $500,000.
Wow. And so you've really, just in COVID relief, you've tripled your annual budget just in that money. And that was a variety of grants and funding opportunities that you brought directly to your community.
Yes, ma'am.
Terence, if you weren't there, what would have happened with that money?
I suspect that things would have never changed. So the east
Yeah.
side of Houston, Harris County would probably still be lacking and needing. Those resources would not be made available to our community. We are passionate advocates for our work. We consider ourselves to be East Harris County champions, to let people know that opportunities should not be zip code restricted. We envision a day where one day the opportunity and access will again be open to all, no matter where you live.
Yeah.
Because for far too long, opportunity has been seated and placed in certain communities, so to speak, and not certain communities by color or race or demographic, but certain communities in terms of zip codes. And so there's a lot of research out there that says that your life expectancy in terms of the quality of life and how long you live is tied to your zip codes. And for us, that's unacceptable. I mean, even after Harvey, our local regional hospital had 6 feet of water and it is no longer in operation. It ceased to exist as of October, November of 2017. So it has been almost 3 years without a local hospital. And yes, people have passed away because they could not access care in a timely fashion.
Wow. So are you looking at addressing that problem?
Yes, you mentioned earlier about what is it that we do. So we bring people together, we convene stakeholders, we advocate for resources, we share opportunities. We consider ourselves to be like an airport that is there to connect people, places, and things. So we are the airport of East Harris County. Service providers or other agencies are considered to be airliners, and we allow them to land and align at our airport. And then we make sure that the people in our area are aware of those opportunities in terms of the flight, so to speak, and what time that the flight takes off and where that flight is headed.
It's just really, really incredible. Your vision and your passion. I mean, you're literally changing your community. And I really am kind of in awe. I don't even know what to ask because I just am like, gosh, what could I have done with my life? So what I'm curious about is how are you guys handling the COVID situation? There's been this quote unquote triple pandemic. One of them has been going on for 400 years. And that is the systemic racism in our country. Black Lives Matter, particularly after George Floyd's murder, but also with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and others, at the same time as COVID, at the same time as millions of people losing their jobs. What's life like in East Harris County right now? Is there hope?
Laura, I honestly believe that East Harris County right now is experiencing, depending on who you are, you experience life much differently than other people of means. And so schools are closed. I think bars are shut down and gyms are shut down again because the governor re-shut those down. But again, schools are closed. Some businesses have closed. People are working from a telework remote operation. And there's a lot of uncertainty. I guess that's the fine line in all of this, is that everyone is uncertain about what is happening. Right now, cases are spiking in the Houston, Harris County area, as per the news reports, and hospital capacity. As you know, we have a world-renowned medical center here in Houston called the Texas Medical Center, where people from all across the world come for care. And they are having trouble keeping up with the demand due to the increased number of cases and patients. We're hearing from some of our community members that people are passing away because they have gathered for a family event, a funeral, a party, a something that has allowed the coronavirus to spread. The testing sites a few weeks ago were sparse and lightly attended, whereas now a long wait for people to be able to get a test, which also creates on the backside a lag in terms of the results. And so there's an increased number of people that are being tested. There's also a lag to where people may not be negative, and they have no idea that they have unfortunately found themselves on the wrong side of the coronavirus. And so
Right.
there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening, but yet we still persist. We are here to serve our community by any means necessary through pandemic, but with pride and with purpose, that we are here on behalf of them and in support of them. So how can we help our neighbors? We are neighbors helping neighbors, individuals, ideas around how the world could be. And the beautiful part about all this is even though that our community right now may be experiencing a global pandemic, there are still good people out there, because many of the people that have come to receive the financial assistance that we've been able to offer them, they have now come back to the organization to volunteer, to help out and do all that they can on behalf of their community as well. So it's a pretty amazing and remarkable thing that's happening at the human level.
Yeah. I think that your organization is like a beacon of light and a beacon of hope to your community. And it's so inspiring to me to just sit and listen to your story. I just continue to be in awe of your commitment. I know that you're doing everything that you can to make life better for the people in your community. And I bet your mom and dad maybe have changed their tune a little bit about you being in nonprofit.
Yes, because I now have gone off to receive my MBA. And so I think I have developed at least the appetite and the desire to be able to lead a nonprofit organization. And we don't even consider ourselves as a nonprofit organization because that's really a tax designation. We see ourselves as brokers of happiness and glimmers of hope and light where there used to be darkness. If we can inspire more people to get involved in their community, to be an individual with an idea of how their community can be improved, we are here to support and work with them to develop the necessary resources and opportunities for everyone to
Right.
thrive.
Before I let you go, I know we need to wrap up. I have a couple more questions. One is, and I guess it's a little different now because the schools are closed, but what do you do with your schools? Because I would think that an organization like yours, you're basically modeling how to be a member of the community. Are you able to go in and do you have a program that you do with schools or with students? Do you have a connection there?
So our connection, because we, on one layer of the organization, we operate at the macro level, and then at another layer, we operate at the micro level. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a personal commitment of speaking to students at career days. We also provide opportunities for the students that are part of student council and other leadership groups to attend professional social outings. Because again, many times these students are not able to leave their zip codes, and we have a serious problem with the lack of exposure to underserved students. But we are
Sure.
also looking at ways of how do we connect our professional communities from a career and technical education aspect of how do we get some of those speakers to go back into the classroom to inspire those kids.
Mm-hmm.
We have a variety of ways. So we don't have necessarily a school-based program that is heavily involved on the campus of the schools. So we try to provide those opportunities at the district level and then allow the school districts to be able to filter those opportunities to the appropriate campuses. And so we
Mm-hmm.
do go out and partner with other organizations and let them know about all the wonderful things that are happening in East Harris County and let them know that they should be doing work in our community. And so they come over and they'll partner with the school or a campus to do a girls mentoring class or a boys class on chivalry or professional development with our high school students or Real Men Reads program with our elementary school students. And so
Mm-hmm.
our job is to be at that level and ensure that the organizations who are best suited to do that work know where we are and that we exist and that they have a partner in us to be able to facilitate those partnerships with our local school districts to strengthen that arm of our school districts. So while we don't have a direct program at the school or with the school, we partner with them in much larger,
Yeah.
deeper, and richer ways that will hopefully inspire students to know that you can be great if you come from this area and you don't have to move out of your quote unquote hood to be good.
Yeah. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming on this podcast. You're a busy man, and it took a while for us to find a time that would actually work for you. And I know you move stuff around. I'm so grateful for the gift of your time because I think that your story is something that needs to be told, and it's something that is going to give people hope. especially young people who have a passion that they can just start taking action. There are some people in life who won't do it until everything is perfectly aligned. And you just kind of are like, hey, we're going to do it. So let's get started. First thing we're getting, t-shirts. And then, look at where you are now. And I can't wait to see where you go and what continues to open up and how East Harris County changes over the decades based on the work that your organization is doing there. It's just really, really inspiring, Terence. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to share. Please let me know how I can help or be of service. But I'm super excited to see where the work goes as well. I feel like we're just getting started 12 years in.
I think you are. In fact, I was at a nonprofit right as they were coming into their 12th year. And I do feel like there's a shift that happens at the 12-year mark, just like in life. It's like a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. Now you've had your first 12 years and now you're going to go into teenage years and it's a little different, but it's fun. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that we let the listeners know how to get in touch with you, where to donate, and how to learn more about your organization and the work that you're doing.
So we're available on social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook under EHCEC. And then our website is www.E as in egg, H as in hat, C as in cat, E as in egg, C as in cat.org. So they can go there and click the donate button. And then we have a very active social media presence on Facebook, so they can find us there and engage with us there. And then I'm also on LinkedIn under Terence Narcisse, TERENCE. NARCISSE. And I'm there on LinkedIn and we'd be happy to chat there.
Great. And I will put all those links on the show notes page so that it'll be really easy for people to get in touch with you. And again, I just want to thank you for carving the time out of your busy schedule to interview with me so that we can share your story with our listeners and hopefully the world. And I do hope that you get some donations out of this because the work that you're doing is just really incredible. And I just want to support you as a leader. Thank you for being a do-gooder. Thank you for taking that pastor's words to heart when you were at your friend's funeral. And you've definitely created a legacy, and it's going to be exciting to see how you move through it and how you set it up for success past you, because that is part of the legacy, right? Is that it's not just about you. I have to say, you have not made it about you. Everything that you said is it's about the community and about the relationships in the community, and you're modeling that. It's an organization that is definitely going to outlast you and just continue to elevate the community. So thank you again for all your work, and I will see you in the village.
Righty then. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks for listening. To access the show notes or share feedback on this podcast and link over to our socials, visit our website at yournonprofitlife.com. That's yournonprofitlife.com. And hey, if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you're going to love The Village. It's our exclusive online community where we take what we're learning in the Nonprofit Leadership Lab and apply it. We take it to the next level with live Q&As, boot camps, online book clubs, and legit support from experts committed to helping you extend your nonprofit life. By the way, since we're just getting started, it would mean the world to us if you'd subscribe to the podcast and leave a great review on iTunes. The reviews will help us get the podcast in front of more people as we try to take the whole sector from messy to thriving. See you next time.